Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another North Carolina A&T Aggie Pridecast. This is the first one for 25-26. It is so happy. I'm so happy to be back with you guys. I had a great year last year with some of these podcasts, and so always welcome to come back with this. And always we want to start and end like we always do with our Director of Athletics, Earl M. Hilton III. I always like to start with him because pretty much this was kind of his idea to go ahead and start a podcast. So it's really his show, but I've kind of taken it over. He kind of lets me take it over.
It's never going to be my
Good.
show, B.
But it's good to start out with him. 25-26 is rolling. We had a great 24-25, but kind of that's in the past, and so now we're moving forward here. And I'm your host, Brian Holloway, as always. And like I said, my guest is Earl M. Hilton III. And Earl, this is year 15, 16 for you as the AD?
Yeah, somewhere in there, 2010, 2011, somewhere in that neighborhood. Yes. Thank you.
So, congratulations on just the long run. And, now.
No place I'd rather be, Brian.
Yeah. Aggie pride, no question, no question. Now, I guess to get into my line of questioning, how much has changed since 2010 to 2025 as when you first kind of got into this madness? And you were in athletics as a compliance person.
I was.
That's your previous
right.
type of deal. So, but just to start with 2010, I don't want to put too much of a long span on that. But what are some of the differences that you see?
Yeah, this could be the entire show, B. Yeah, so 2010, we're living in a world where there's no transfer portal, there's no NIL, there is no cost of attendance, there's no Alston money. All of those changes, those iterations occur subsequent to that. 2015, you start with cost of attendance. 2015, you create the Power Five. The autonomy conferences kind of split off and begin to create legislation that meets their needs more dramatically. One of the opportunities that comes out of that is cost of attendance for student athletes. Becomes permissible for us, but not mandatory. And then you move into 2018, 2019 with the transfer portal, where we pretty significantly liberalized the rules for transfer and immediate eligibility at the next school for all of our student athletes. And then, 2021 with the Alston decision that allows us to compensate student athletes for academic expenses and success. And then, 9 days later, immediately on the heels of that, we have the interim guidance from the NCAA regarding indirect NIL, third party NIL payments to student athletes. The collectives are born. So I'm not aware of another period. That's a 5 or 6 year window between 2015 and 2021 with that kind of rapid change, that kind of seismic shift in how we view college athletics and how we provide for our student athletes. So exciting to be a part of it, certainly through that shift. And we're still rolling it out. I don't want to give the impression that we're on the other side of that and have solved all the problems. But certainly that 5 to 6 year window was pretty dramatic in terms of the changes it made to Division I college athletics specifically.
So because just as a clarification, the transfer portal was always in existence. It just wasn't as frequently used as it is now. I've talked to coaches who coached before 2010 and even beyond that. You may go in and you might get 20, 25 guys in a portal. It wasn't a whole lot. Now, that number is astronomical. So which comes first, the chicken or the egg type question? Did the transfer portal explode, or did the court decisions make for the transfer portal to explode the way it is now?
Yeah, certainly the court decisions have incentivized the transferring as student athletes are attempting to put themselves in more advantageous positions financially and from a playing perspective. Prior to the transfer portal as we know it today, there was a pretty significant eligibility hit across men's basketball and men's and football if you transferred. You'd have to sit a year and you lost a year of eligibility. So you could do it, but there was a pretty significant disincentive for that kind of behavior. And there were opportunities to write waivers and to seek relief from that if there's something changed in your personal life that made it necessary for you to get back closer to home or to a different school. But by and large, that penalty certainly tamped down the transfer activity. Once that goes away, yeah, you have thousands of student athletes in the portal on an annual basis, and it does sort of feed on itself as I can transfer without a penalty from a competition perspective or from an eligibility perspective, and I may be able to monetize my name, image, or likeness more effectively or with greater efficiency at another institution. And so it certainly feeds on itself.
And I'm old enough to remember that, if you transfer within your own conference, you had to sit 2 years,
Oh, yes.
yeah, before you were eligible. Now, it's nothing for us to face somebody twice a season that used to be on our team the
Exactly.
prior year. Yeah, so
It happened
it's
last year. It could happen this year.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's just a crazy scenario that we find ourselves in at this point in time. How much of uh, how much of the do people get confused NIL and collective? Because NIL to me is a little different than the collective. Are there some subtle differences? NIL seems more student athlete driven. Collective seems more university driven. Is there clarification on that?
So to this July, prior to July 1, 2025, institutions were not able to participate directly with their student athletes in licensing their name, image, or likeness. And so, if a student athlete was going to monetize their name, image, or likeness, it had to be with a third party outside of the institution. Initially, we couldn't even counsel or help or guide or provide advice to our student athletes. And that evolved over time until you got to the place where we are today. But initially, there was supposed to be no interaction between the student athlete and the institution as student athletes sought to monetize their name, image, and likeness. And so and it started out as an effort to pay for actual work being done. A student athlete would come and go to a business, and that can still happen. Go to a business and work and provide marketing opportunities. They may, show up and sign autographs or be part of a particular celebration for a business or an organization, and that organization could pay the student athlete for their time, for their name, image, and likeness, lending it to that event or that activity. And that's still the way that it's set up for those third-party NIL deals. Collectives grew out of the idea that we could pull our money together. Groups of individuals could pool their money together and more efficiently distribute those resources in a way that had a more targeted impact on the school or institution with which they wish to be affiliated. Beginning July 1 of this year, one of the primary components of the House settlement was that schools, institutions are now directly able to participate in the NIL game. Individual institutions, A&T, for instance, can sign contracts with our student athletes. We can pay them to license their name, image, and likeness on our behalf. So you still have the indirect route, which is through your collective or through a third-party business, but we now have, as of July 1 of this year, the direct opportunity as an institution to compensate our student athletes for their name, image, and likeness.
How do you see that impacting North Carolina A&T?
Oh, it has, and it's going to continue to impact us. We have to play in this space. This is a place that we cannot sit on our hands, and so we are actively engaged in recruiting resources as an institution so that we can assist our student athletes in this space. We have launched recently the All Aggies All-In capital campaign, which is a 5-year campaign that was announced yesterday formally by the chancellor, where we focused on recruiting dollars for our student athlete scholarships so that we can cover the cost of their scholarships, their academic support, which would free up other resources in the department for us to play aggressively, we hope aggressively, in this NIL space. So we're definitely
Uh,
going to be part of it.
yeah. Or is A&T late to the game? Meaning, have we lost more than we wanted to because we just haven't been as active in the NIL space? If you follow me.
Uh, I think 3 years ago we could say that we might have been a little bit late with our collective. We were probably 9 or 10 months behind other institutions in forming their collectives. No institution could step into the NIL space until July 1 of this year. And so, in that sense, I believe we stepped into the space at the same time everyone else did. We began having conversations about this, obviously in the spring, with our coaches about what this was going to mean, anticipating the approval of the settlement and recognizing that this was very likely going to be a key component of the settlement and certainly part of our reality moving forward. So, to the extent that no one could begin before July 1 in this space, I don't think we're behind. I think 3 years ago we likely were behind with our collective. Um, we were several months late in that space, but I think we're in a good place now with direct pay NIL.
No question about it. Talk a little bit more about, because like you said, it was launched yesterday officially. You know, we've kind of known about it. We had some talks about it prior, but talk about how people can just get involved in the importance of them getting involved in order to allow us to prosper in this space, not only from a conference standpoint, but just being able to compete on the national level, because that's who we're competing against. Really,
Oh,
all these schools
absolutely.
are coming in and trying to farm away our talent.
Yeah, absolutely. There's Unfortunately there is no option at this point if we're going to remain Division One and be competitive. This is a place that we have to play in and we have to be successful in. Um, we can't nibble around the edges. We have to fully commit to this in order to attract and, even more importantly, retain the talent that we need in order to graduate the right student athletes and to win championships. And there's still a fair amount of unknown in terms of how much money is needed to be successful in this space. And if anyone suggests to you that they have that answer, um, they're very optimistic because this is so new. It's July 1. We won't know for several years what the cost of entry is to be successful. But we do know that it is going to take right now hundreds of thousands of dollars and very likely in the coming year millions of dollars that we can share with our student athletes as part of their participation in sport at A&T in order for us to, again, attract and retain the right student athletes for us to be successful.
If you had to render just your bare bones analysis, and I know you kind of really detailed the history, which is really good. I thought it was great information. But you know, just from your standpoint, how did we kind of get here? Where we're talking about millions of dollars when uh, we were like most of the HBCUs just here to give people an opportunity where others wouldn't, and we kind of had that tradition to us, and now we're playing in a whole new ball game. Kind of document from your perspective how we got here.
Are you asking we as A&T, we are as HBCUs, or we
He
as
has in college athletics.
college athletics, the big picture, all
Yeah,
350 some odd Division One student athletes, our institutions?
yeah, because we
All right,
A&T just kind of came along with the
right,
others,
right.
in the
We're
space.
okay. Um, so I'm going to try to be honest and
Diplomatic.
diplomatic. Thank you. Um, I think broadly it has been a failure of leadership in a number of places. Institutional leadership over decades has failed to step into Division I athletics and take appropriate institutional control of this machine, this entrepreneurial machine. And there are certainly schools in the country that are very effective at generating revenue and making money. And that has happened largely, in my estimation, this is just me, without enough institutional oversight to direct, to correct, to appropriately prioritize where those resources go, how they're spent. And so we've created a vicious cycle there. I think we have also, 50 years ago, 60 years ago, took a dim view of athletics in the academy. We believed, at least at some level, that athletics, college athletics, did not have a place in institutions of higher education, that it was kind of an ugly stepsister that was there and tolerated, but not really embraced as part of the institution and not appreciated for the role that it could play and certainly the benefit that it provides for the institution and the student athletes who participate, the alumni, the current students, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think it was valued effectively, which in turn forced many athletics departments to become entrepreneurial, to survive, because the money simply wasn't there from the institution. There was a belief that the institution should not use their money to support athletics. And so we forced athletics department to become entrepreneurial, and we did not provide adequate oversight as they became, again, some very, very effective in raising money. And then the third piece is, I think, from an associational perspective, I think we saw some of these trends coming maybe 2 decades ago. We could have anticipated, and I think there were people who did anticipate that the current revenue share model, where you're providing room, board, tuition, fees, and books for a student athlete, while athletic staff or coaching staff are making considerably more than that, was not an effective way to manage the institution or the enterprise. So I think that was visible well before we actually, as an association, stepped into a place where we tried to make appropriate adjustments legislatively and procedurally to balance those inequities that were clear and obvious and evident to everyone that exists. And so those would be my 3, relatively uneducated views from where I sit in this little space of how we got to this place. I think we took a dim view of athletics. I think we failed to provide appropriate institutional oversight, and I think we missed some opportunities to make changes as an association that would have allowed us to get ahead of this and manage it in a much more effective and efficient and fair way for the student athletes involved.
Yeah, what you're saying reminds me of the conversation or the famous excerpt from Mitch Albom's book when he's talking about the Fab Five, and Chris Webber is quoted as saying, he's in the student union and he's trying to scrounge up enough money to buy a Taco Bell, and he looks across the way at the bookstore and they're selling his jersey for $60 or whatever, and he's
Right.
struggling just to pay for a meal. So you say 2 decades, I think this kind of the conversation started in the 80s and the 90s, especially with, young men not graduating and going back to their situations that they were in before they came to school, and all of those kind of things started playing a role in the conversation started. Where should we have been? In hindsight is always 2020, of course, but should there have been some type of policy, insurance policy, something for these young people who are struggling to pay for Taco Bell?
Yeah, I mean, the example you bring up of Chris Webber is replayed 1,000 times on campuses across, and still today sometimes. I mean, we have student athletes who full ride kids, full ride scholarships, but if they get a flat tire, or if they want a haircut, or if they're trying to go on a date, they struggle to find that money in ways that just seem unimaginable to us. That we still have to deal with that. We still have to struggle with that. So we certainly could have been way ahead of this conversation. Several lawsuits ago, could have made decisions as membership. Now, the NCAA doesn't do anything, and we're membership driven. And so I'm talking about, we're one of those members, and we did not insist or see or appropriately raise the alarm in a way that would have signaled that this is something that ought to be addressed immediately. I hate to use the word exploitation, but that's certainly what it looks like in hindsight as we look back at what we did with and to student athletes who failed to graduate, who did not complete their degree but ran out of eligibility and hence ran out of scholarship funding, and so we sent them back into situations that were not productive, and we didn't equip them with the tools that would have allowed them to change the course of their life. So we got the basketball, we got the volleyball, we got the soccer out of them. They did not get the education out of us, and we let that happen. We were okay with it for far too long.
We're here with Earl M. Hilton III, talking about giving and giving to the new capital campaign, Aggies All-In. Text to 71777 if you want to give to that campaign. Very important, very a great thing that the university is starting. The university's all in on this to grow this campaign for college athletics here at North Carolina A&T, so that we can compete on that NIL level, the collective level. And so just really appreciate him kind of really educating us on why we're here and why we need to give, and why it's very important. So want to switch gears here just a little bit with you. We'll get into facilities. We always like to kind of get into these things with you. Always want to give a shout out to folks who have questions for us. Daisy Valentine wants to talk some War Memorial Stadium, kind of where we are with that, and will there be full scholarships for NCAA baseball players?
All right. So War Memorial, I don't have any more information on that than I had last time I was on your show, Brian. I know we are struggling to receive all of the permits that are required from the local regulatory agency, our state regulatory agencies, the federal regulatory agencies, the Army Corps of Engineers, the environmental protection agencies that work at the state and federal level, as well as any historic agencies that have oversight over the stadium. We continue to labor diligently to try to have all of those organizations work in synchronicity so that we can get permission to do the things that need to be done at War Memorial. That's a very long way for me to say progress is extremely slow and tedious and invisible at this point in that space.
Yeah, thank you for addressing that. In terms of the basketball facility, of course, great LED board, the seating there. Where do we stand on that in terms of just the upper level seating?
Yeah, there is a project for replacing some of the upper level seating in Corbett on both sides. That is slated right now to happen in the spring. Hopefully after the end of basketball season and before the orientation season starts is the window that we're looking at for that.
And then there's always the question of football, practice field facilities, those type of things. Any improvements coming with that on the horizon?
Right. Football practice field slated to be replaced summer of 26. We had a meeting this morning about that project and what's involved in that project. So we expect for that to occur next summer.
And then there's the question of our tennis teams, men's and women's tennis teams, in terms of, I know right now they're practicing at Dudley High School.
Practicing and competing.
And competing. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, I knew they were at the indoor center, so now they're
Yeah, so during
competing
this
at.
during the winter season, they could play at the indoor center, but our outdoor our spring season, we compete at Dudley.
Okay, and is that going to be the case for the foreseeable future?
We have had one meeting with a group of individuals connected with some local tennis facilities here, and have been in discussion about what that might look like if we form some kind of a consortium or a project together. We have another meeting in that regard next week. So talks at this point is all we're having about tennis, but that is a continuing source of concern and frustration for us. The courts that we have that we built on campus are built on soil or sand that is unstable, either because the soil itself is unstable or because there's moisture underneath. There's water that flows underneath it and makes it unstable. So we have historically repaired them, resurfaced them, and only to find within 18 months to 2 years they crack again as the soil beneath them shifts. And so that site is not suitable for long-term construction without significant backfill and digging up and renovation. So we are in open discussions about how do we address our tennis facility needs. I hope to have more on that in the future.
No question, no question. We'll come back at the end of the season and we'll address it again. And hopefully, there
Okay.
might be some changes
Hopefully I know
there.
more. Yeah. Yeah.
Football, back to football. Do you foresee there being a ring of honor started at the stadium in terms of some of our better players? I know we retired Evan Bethea's number. His number is in the concourse. Will there be something inside the stadium that gives people a sense of our history?
That's a excellent question. And as you know, a topic of some discussion for us. We have not done a good job of defining how we effectively honor our past athletes, our great athletes that have historically represented A&T. We don't have a good system for how we identify and celebrate our current athletes who are recognized as Player of the Year, Player of the Week, and singling them out for the appropriate recognition. We started, as you're aware, we had a conversation several years ago about these are some guidelines and some drafts of how we could recognize those groups. We also don't have, and I'm sorry to say this, a standard protocol or practice for how we recognize fallen Aggies,
Hmm.
our athletes uh, who lost their lives while they were student athletes at A&T. So working with some individuals, trying to form a committee that will involve representatives from the Alumni Association, from the Aggie Athletic Foundation, from the Hall of Fame, as well as some uh, interested alumni, so that we can put together a practice, a procedure, a policy that attempts to address all of these issues, because we do not have any defined protocol for how we celebrate or recognize or identify individuals who excel in those spaces. Will that lead to a ring of honor in the stadium? Is still an open question. That may be one of the recommendations this committee comes back with. Is we should have that, and this is how someone qualifies to have their name or their jersey placed in that ring of honor. That is long overdue for us to have that conversation. And again, I hope when we talk in the spring that I'm able to say we've arrived at a policy and a procedure, and we're going to begin to implement it.
Will it just be outside, or will someone from within the athletics department be on that committee as well? Just
Oh,
to
I'm guessing you will be on it, and probably uh, 'cause you have so much history, B. There'll be some athletics staff on that committee as well. Yeah.
question, no question. Uh, so back to some of our questions from our comments section. Champ D1012. This question always comes up. How close are we to soccer?
We're just a field away. If we can get it, that has been my answer for a long time. I know that we're making progress in what we're calling the F area with the apartments that were the university's buying and tearing down. They're going to build some fields for the school, for the institution in that area. That's all that we're short, is a competition field. Now, I don't know how much longer we're going to wait on that. Whether we may look at playing in an outside venue. We may look at once we have those practice fields from intramurals or for intramurals, once they're on campus, we may look at starting a soccer program practicing on the non-regulation fields, but then competing at one of the regulation fields here in Greensboro. We may start that way because women's soccer needs to happen.
So we would just do women soccer just for the Title IX component of it.
Initially, that's where we would start. Yes.
Outstanding. And then I guess this is a question, James. This is more of a future football. We play UCF in terms of a guaranteed game this year. I believe Central is slated for Charlotte in 2027.
That's correct.
Uh, and I believe there's a Georgia game, which, based on what happened at UCF, might be a little scary in
Yeah.
2030. But any more details on any future football games?
Yeah. So we've got Georgia State, I think, next year. We have NC State. And then we either have Chapel Hill or Duke. I think may have Chapel Hill again. And then we're looking at Duke as well. So I'm not crazy about. I'd like to stay home. I'd like for us to play the ACC schools that are in North Carolina as our FBS game on an annual basis. I'd like it to be that rotation if we can set that up.
Do you see anything that changes the trajectory of having to play some of these top level schools, maybe a giving campaign, something like that, or is
Right.
that just the world we live in?
No, I would love to get out of that world. If this campaign, this All Aggies All-In campaign, is as successful as I think we can be, that would provide, in large measure, the budget relief that we need, which is that gap is currently being filled by these guarantee games. Football plays them, basketball plays them, women's basketball plays them, and they are budget driven at this point. So if we can address the budget in a different way, then there's no other reason to be in that space.
No question about it. Before we let you go, let's talk some sports. The Aggie Eagle didn't go the way we wanted it. Again, the Sean Gibbs era has begun at North Carolina A&T. A&T did come away with his first ever CAA win. That is very significant. So we're very excited about that. How excited are you about the future of A&T football as we kind of get into this new era with head coach Sean Gibbs?
Nobody's happy with the record, including Coach Gibbs, but I love what I see out of Coach Gibbs and his interaction with our players. I think we have the right guy there. I love what I'm seeing out of our strength and conditioning, Coach Harbor, and what he's doing with our young people to help us become bigger, faster, stronger. This is a process, and we knew it was a process. I mean, Coach Gibbs has got here, January, February, had a truncated recruiting class for this year. So he really has not had his first recruiting class yet. But I'm very comfortable with what I see from him as a leader, with his interaction with the young men and the way that he is setting expectations and insisting that our student athletes and our coaches meet those expectations. So no one's happy with where we are competitively, but I do believe we have the right person there who will solve that problem for us.
And then you've got hired a new director of golf. You've already won, I believe, a women's tournament, won a men's tournament this past week. Both programs combined have a 3 Player of the Week awards. You had a young lady that just tore up the record book a few weeks ago. Camilo Marin won Men's Golfer of the Week yesterday. Talk about Misha Levister, what you saw in her, what you liked about her, and is this program now primed to kind of really, do some big things?
Absolutely. Again, it'll take a minute, recruiting and building, but we do expect to dump some resources into our golf program this year with some TrackMan hitting and facilities in the Glover Sports Performance Center. Will be heavily focused on golf, and so we expect for good things to continue to happen with our golf program. But Coach Levister is outstanding. I walked into her office yesterday to talk about something, and I interrupted a meeting. She was visiting with a couple of her female student athletes, and so I walked in and asked a question. And while she was looking up the information that I requested, one of the young ladies just turned to me and said, "We're happy." So, you get that kind of feedback from a student athlete about their coach. You feel like you made the right hire.
Yeah, no question about it. And then, of course, we've got women's bowling picked to win the MEAC again. Another preseason bowler of the year announced yesterday. Uh, in terms of just the level of competition, is there a way to? I mean, they already play the best competition in the country throughout the
Right.
tournaments, but I guess there's just no way to kind of get them that higher seed a little bit up a little bit, or are we just kind of always going to be that fourth seed coming in?
What we lack, the piece that, if I could give Coach Kim one thing that I think would make a difference, if I could give her 4 lanes on campus,
Hmm.
that would be the difference for us. Um, if she had that, she'd be untouchable. She's already the best coach in the country. She would be untouchable. Uh,
Outstanding.
if I could give her, these are your lanes. They're always yours. You can use them anytime you need to. The kids can go bowl anytime they want to. That's what we lack there.
Yeah, and one of the things that she said to me that I didn't never really thought of, but even some of the other programs in the country that have to use facilities off campus, but they have their own lockers, they have their own space, they have their own, it's almost like being at home or whatever
Right.
because it's locker room environment. I never thought about that for bowling,
We don't
but I
have
mean, I
that.
think that, I think it would be a huge advantage.
Yep, it is. In recruiting is what we're talking about.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
how you win as you recruit, and that's the piece that would put us over the top.
no question. Get into a little bit of volleyball. Tyne Ross, of course, another preseason.
All everything.
Yeah, all everything. She's off to a great start this year. How proud of you of the volleyball team and the way they've been able to compete in the
Man,
coastal?
I just love the progression that we've seen. I Hal told me a couple of days ago. This is his 12th or 13th year. Is that
He's the longest tenured coach in A&T history
could
for
that be
volleyball.
true? How did that ever happen? But this is the progression. We continue to get better. He continues to develop, recruit the right young ladies. They develop. I mean, he's had back-to-back Rookie of the Years, um,
Yes, great.
which is incredible. So couldn't be more pleased. Couldn't be more happy with how the volleyball program. And I can talk about a program, not the volleyball team. The volleyball program is being developed and led, and the young ladies and how they are responding to the coaching and to the direction and to the development. Just couldn't be happier.
And Coach Bibbs would kill me if I didn't bring up men's tennis, women's tennis, and some of the success that they've had so far this fall. I think they've had 3 individuals win draws this year. Women's tennis team did very well over at UNCG a couple of weeks ago. We mentioned his facility, but he's done pretty good for not having that on-campus facility.
Yeah, really miraculous. You think he doesn't have on-campus courts, no on-campus clubhouse, no on-campus locker room. We're playing at a high school facility, and he's able to recruit and retain the talent. From a competitive perspective, from a record perspective, I don't know that we've ever had a more successful men's or women's tennis program in terms of wins and losses.
That's right.
So, yeah, again, given the handicaps that he's working with, what he's been able to do is nothing short of miraculous.
No question about it. Somebody brought up the pledge from Steve Smith Sr., former Carolina Panther, former NFL player, to the golf program. Can you speak on that at all?
Yep. Yeah, he's exactly right. It happened. Uh, that's all on Coach Levister. She had conversation, and that's exactly what Mr. Smith committed to do for our golf program.
And then we have another one from Jamie Walker asking about, are there, we talked about the practice field, but any other upgrades coming down the pipe for A&T football?
None that are close enough for me to say with any certainty that in terms of a timeline. We've got some soft plans. We have a huge master plan that is just that at this point, a plan. the practice field is our next big project for football.
No question about it. And then we've got some basketball schedules that are hitting a little bit. Of course, Coach Robinson, Terrell Robinson, defending CAA regular season champions, and then Coach Ross, of course, coming back in. I think 10 or 11 new players added to his roster this season. How excited are you about some hoops, man?
Yeah. So I mean, women, uh, again, perennial strength in our department. T. Rob has provided outstanding. How long has he been? He's been got to be 14
In
years.
season, I believe 14. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So T. Rob, again, perennial leader in the department and a consistent uh, coach with our women's basketball program. Puts a good product on the floor year after year after year, recruiting and retaining and developing the right young women. So very excited about what he will bring to the table again, and how we will fare in the CAA. Men's basketball, again, you talk about the transfer portal and what that means. You have 11 players coming in. That's a complete turnover. A roster of 13 to 15. That's you're turning the whole house over to bring those guys in. Haven't seen them play yet. They passed the eye test.
They
I
do.
mean,
They absolutely do. They look like a basketball team.
they're a
They need
basketball team.
legit.
So
Yeah.
so I'm excited. I want to see them play. I want to see them work together. I want to see them develop and gel. But they passed the eye test. They look good, and so I'm excited about what we can do there in that space.
No question about it. That's why you have to text to give, help Coach Ross, help Coach Robinson, and all those guys be able to retain some of the great talent that they are starting to recruit. So no question about that. No, we got to get you out of here. I was going to do the top 10 with you on the top 10. Uh, for the top 10 states, we have the most colleges inside of them. But number one and number 10 are very familiar to you. Who do you think number one is?
Have the most with Texas.
Texas, absolutely. Texas. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah,
That'll be
yeah.
the
And
only answer I get correct.
you might get number 10 correct too. Who's
Is North Carolina?
North Carolina? Yeah, North
Really?
Carolina.
So
Ranked
what are the
10th, yeah.
numbers for North Carolina and Texas in terms of colleges?
North Carolina, I think I would have to go back and look. I would have to believe I just have the rankings, but I believe North Carolina is around 300, and I think Texas is up around 600 units, schools, universities within the state. Number two, of course, is the next biggie which is Florida.
I think what Carolina has, we've got 19 Division I schools,
Yeah, there's a
something like
ton.
that.
Yeah,
It's crazy. Yeah,
yeah, ridiculous. Yeah, yeah, it's
yeah,
ridiculous. Amazing that anybody's ever able to recruit with that
yeah,
many Division ones and
yeah.
in one state, and they're all just kind of right there together. So no question about it. But I will let you go. I know there's a meeting in your future, and I appreciate you taking out time with us. I think everybody, from what I can see, enjoyed the conversation. I think everybody walked away a little smarter, and we appreciate you for that.
B, thanks so much. Happy to be here and happy to be part of the show. And I really appreciate our fans and supporters and all the help that they continue to give our student athletes and our coaches.
No question. Aggie Pride.
Aggie Pride.
Take care.
Bye bye.